All right, guys, we're back. I apologize for that. I guess my boomer ass shouldn't be pirating music, which I don't really understand the policies or whatever it is that regards this sort of thing. I mean, I have used that second song that I played. I've used often in my videos, and I've never received any sort of copyright strike. So I don't understand the legalities or whatever. Um, Yeah, but anyways, I apologize again for the confusion. Had to go back on Telegram and delete the old post and add the new one. Um, but yeah, it would be nice if they warned you before pulling the plug on the stream. I don't really understand. It's not like I make any goddamn fucking money off of this shit. I don't take anybody's goddamn super chats. For anything, I'm just spreading the good word of Mirker's music. It's outstanding music. I love it, but I don't understand. But anyways, um, this is the Nordstream 3 long years. Welcome to the show. I have to give my friend Pox Populi. He suggested a couple of weeks ago that I do a stream called Nordstream after the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline. I'm not expecting a lot of people to be here tonight. I've already fucked up and you know uh, got the copyright infringement or whatever. So I've tried to put the word back out. Um, but in tonight's stream, hey Bormagni, it's good to see you. Glad you was able to catch one for once down there in the land down under. It's good to see you, TDT. Happy you're here. Thank you so much for stopping by. BS, rip, rest in peace, Mirker. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. I'm a hillbilly after all, and pronunciation ain't never been my goddamn strong suit, you could say. Ooga Booga Law, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Sig Visling, Witchfinder Nielsen, glad you could make it. Ryan 218, glad you could make it. Maybe some more people will show up. I'm not sure, but this is just a solo stream. It's been a long time since I've done a solo stream. And that's what I will do these Nord streams. They will be a solo stream. It'll just be me giving you my thoughts on things. And I have to admit, I have no notes for this stream. I have really nothing prepared. I'm just going to give it an account, you could say, a sort of testament of, I guess, my 3 years doing this. And there's a lot that I have learned, a lot of things, and I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts. This stream is going to be rambling, and I don't really have any plans. I don't know how long this stream will be as well. I don't know if you can tell. I've kind of got a cold right now. I've been sneezing. It's a frosty night down here in southeast Tennessee. The temperature right now is about 30. It's probably going to kill what's left of my garden. I harvested my last tomatoes today. Going to let them ripen in the windowsill. And I dug up all my sweet potatoes a couple of weeks ago. Harvested some bell peppers, a few other things. But I'm ready for fall, ready for winter. Feeling good, feeling great, even though I feel slightly under the weather. I hope everybody out there is feeling good, feeling great as well. How you doing, Ruiner? Yes, early frost, that sucks. Actually, I'm glad for it. Like I said, I'm from the northeast corner of Tennessee, and up there, the winters they're a lot harsher than the winters down here in southeast Tennessee. The elevation's higher. To be honest, I'm ready for the early winter. I'd love to see some snow, although it doesn't snow as much down here as it does back home, sadly. But I'm ready for winter. I like winter to be brutally honest. I much prefer winter to summer for the most part, but I appreciate all the seasons. Let's see. Bormagni says Mirker. Mirker. like murky with old rolling R. I'm not too great at rolling my R's, as you know. But anyways, 3 long years here in about 2 weeks, which I'm going ahead and doing the stream. This is a sort of, I guess you could say, an early birthday celebration of this channel. I guess you could say I've made it 3 long years. Let's see. Sig Kvisling says bronchitis sucks. It's actually not bronchitis. It's more like a head cold, and it probably doesn't help that I smoke cigarettes on occasion. I smoked one just a few minutes before I started this stream. I need to quit that. It's a bad habit, of course, but I can't help it. I enjoy some tobacco on occasion. Anyways, and I'm thinking a lot about time here lately, the passage of time. And this month, particularly the last 5 days, I guess you could say, there's been some life changing events, I guess you could say, that's happened in my life during this time of the year. Um, just 5 days ago, on October the 15th, it marked 18 years that my grandfather, Roger, passed away. He was only 57 when he passed away. Um, I was a senior in high school. And I was thinking back to that. And then just 4 years ago, on October the 18th, it was 4 years ago that I moved from Northeast Tennessee down here to Southeast Tennessee. And my life has changed tremendously since that time. You could say it's changed for the better. Um, Rest in peace, Roger. Yes, he was only 57. Um, I remember him taking me out when I was 12 years old. It was my mother's father, by the way. I remember him taking me out behind his barn up in the woods up there. He lived at the top of the holler back home. And he showed me his moonshine still that he had up and running. He had the mash in the barrel, had the fire under it. It was, I was really impressed with this, by the way. I'll never forget it. I got to see my grandpa some, but he he was an alcoholic. I mean, he made moonshine. Uh, like I said, he was only 57, but he was a good man. He had his faults and he had his feelings. I mean, his failings, I should say. But he was a good man, and I loved him. And I remember when we walked back from out behind the barn up in the woods, we were having a Sunday dinner, and when me and him show back up on the front porch, our family's out there. And my mom asked him, she's like, "Dad, where'd you take Dave off to?" And he's like, "Well, I was just showing him the old family business there." I don't think she was too impressed with him showing me such a thing when I was just 12 years old, but I was impressed, certainly. I'll never forget that. But like I mentioned too, someday, son, almost none of this will all be yours. That's true sometimes. That's a poignant observation there, Sig. Um, but yeah, it was 4 years ago. You could basically say I've been clean off the methamphetamine for 4 years now. My life has improved greatly, but I've mentioned too that sometimes I do miss the chaos and the criminal aspect of that life. Um, I don't miss the drugs. I really have no want. I know they say that once an addict, always an addict. I think that's bullshit a lot of times. But of course, if I hadn't have moved away when I did 4 years ago, I am absolutely certain that I would be in prison today with some of the things that I was engaged in, and possibly dead. Um, it's really shocking to me sometimes. Like I said, this stream's going to be rambling. I don't mean to get all sentimental here talking about my past. But it's been almost 3 years since I started this channel, and it's been 3 years since I have gotten into this thing, I guess you could say. And I'm thinking back at the passage of time. Sometimes I'm horrified at how quickly time goes anymore. Um, I believe the older you get, the faster that time proceeds down the road. Like I said, 18 years since my grandpa died. It's I don't understand where it all went in a way, you know. I mean, I am 35 now. If I make it to 70, my life's already halfway over. But anyways, you know, the passage of time, and I wanted to talk some about some of the things that I've experienced since I've gotten this, some of the trends I've seen, some of the just some of the things I've seen, and I have to admit, sometimes lately I find myself growing sort of impatient, sort of frustrated, sort of vexed, I guess you could say. Maybe vexed is the proper word, a better term to describe it. Um, you know, I made a video the other day talking about mental health, and you know, sometimes in these circles, it's very hard to try to keep your morale up, to try to keep your spirits up. And you know, I have seen some things since I've been in this that I am just, you know, slightly disappointed. I don't know about slightly, but disappointed in, you could say. There are certain things about this thing that we are in that I just do not, and I do not understand them. You know, my good friend Patrick Siegeman, he did a couple of streams. It was one of them, I think, was done about 6 months ago. The other one, 6 or 7 months ago. The other one was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. The streams were entitled 2016 to 2022 White Nationalist Retrospect. And in it, he talked about his time in this, which I don't want to, you know, focus too much on my time in this. If you want a comprehensive history, that is the man to see. I highly recommend you watch that stream. I'd say most all of you have seen that stream already. It was a really good stream, and he talks about a lot of the things that I have sort of experienced, although his timeline is twice as long as mine. I mean, he's been in this for 6 years. I've only been here half that time. And, you know, I've learned a lot from Pat over time. The other stream was called Schizoopolis, and he was talking about, you know, his bewilderment with a lot of things that he has seen over time in this a movement, as he calls it. Um, they're very well worth watching. And, you know, when I started this channel almost 3 years ago, I literally have never I literally never would have imagined I would have gotten into such a hobby as this. Um, I'm not a, well, in some ways, I'm not a particularly outgoing person. Um, I remember when I was in college, I hated giving fucking demonstrations or presentations in front of class. I just did not like it. Um, which I just hated college in general, and most of the shit I was having to do presentations on was shit that bored me to fucking death. So, of course, I was not into it. My heart wasn't into it. So I really couldn't imagine that I would have gotten into this hobby. But I guess I'll try to give you a little bit of my history, and I apologize to those of you who've heard this story 1,000 fucking times because I feel like I've told it 1,000 times. But the red pill journey, I guess you could say. I was raised in a very conservative household, up in a holler in the mountains of extreme rural northeast Tennessee. You know, I didn't have a lot of money. My family wasn't wealthy by any means growing up, but we were wealthy in other ways. Of course, wealth isn't just the accrual of, you know, money and shiny things, in my opinion. In fact, I think wealth is measured in other things, more what you could call intangible sort of things. I've only been going 14 minutes, and I can feel my voice cracking a little bit. Let me get a drink of water here. Anyways, so I grew up in a conservative household. My parents were outstanding. Um, we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a decent amount of land. And I've never been one that, I was raised conservative, but there was no sort of indoctrination and things of that nature that we see today with the education system. Um, None of the anti-white poison that is pumped into the malleable minds of the children. It wasn't like that. Um, and I remember when I was about 10 years old, I remember watching a movie called Testament. And this movie, I believe, was made in the early 80s, early 70s. Me and my mother watched it, and it was a story about a family trying to survive after a nuclear attack. It was a very depressing film. It's an obscure film, if I remember correctly. I didn't enjoy it, but it showed the family suffering from radiation sickness, from the fallout. It was pretty bleak, pretty depressing movie, but it got me intrigued in nuclear weapons, which naturally led me to the Cold War, which led me to communism. And I remember asking my dad some things. He actually had me read the book Animal Farm by George Orwell when I was 10 years old, which is a sort of analogy for the communist, the Bolshevik revolution there in Russia. And I remember him telling me that Karl Marx was a Jew, of course. And this kind of, struck me because, you know, although there wasn't all this anti-white propaganda back then, there was the typical propaganda regarding World War II. And this led to some questions, I guess you could say. Plus, I was always intrigued with the quote unquote bad guys of World War II. When I was a child, I always kind of rooted for the villains in stories. Um, Fast forward several years to 2016, you know, I watched The Greatest Story Never Told with my father. He invited me up over a period of several days, several evenings when he would get off work. And it took us about 3 days. We'd watch 2 hours at each setting. I believe that documentary is about 6 hours long. And I was very intrigued, you could say. And when we finished watching it, which my dad, he started going down the rabbit hole, I believe, back in 2007. He had worked for 27 years as a machinist at a tool and die factory back home. He lost his job, and it was a rough year for him. Um, and he started, I remember like in 2009 or so, I believe I remember him starting to talk about the Rothschilds, which, I have to admit, I didn't pay a lot of heed to such things back then. I was a young, retarded college student that only had partying and women on my mind at that time. But like I said, fast forward to 2016, he asked me what I thought of that documentary after I watched it with him, and I was like, that answers a lot of questions that in all my years of education, that no teacher of mine or college professor for that matter could answer. It answers all the questions. And at the time, I was kind of on the fence. I was on the fence. I was like, this makes a lot of fucking sense, but I need to look into this further for myself. But unfortunately, in the year of 2016, right around this time, that's when the years of meth got started, as I like to call it. And I went down a path that sometimes, I'm shocked that I went down that path, but then again, I'm not. I always had the feeling, even when I was a child, I knew at some point that I was going to get into such things because even as a child, there are things that your parents tell you, not to do or not to get into, and you listen to some of them. But then there are some of those things that you sneak and do it, and you're like, holy shit, that's actually pretty damn fun. That's actually really enjoyable. But made it through that. And that was a huge part, I guess, of my red pilling experience as well. Is that whenever I moved down here 4 years ago, I seen that I seen the carnage and the human wreckage. I experienced it firsthand during the years of meth. I seen some pretty depraved, depressing things during those years. I seen families, I seen parents shooting up meth while their kids are running around the living room while they're sitting on the couch sticking a needle in their fucking arm. I seen kids go without. I seen just the human wreckage, as I like to call it. And this is a similar story for our people all across this country, but it has affected the areas of Appalachia extremely. It's hit it extremely hard. This all started back in 1996, of course, with the introduction of OxyContin. It was promoted heavily in Appalachia, doctors writing it. There was a Dr. Proctor, I forget his first name. He's not associated with Procter and Gamble, but he was one of the first doctors. And I believe he set up shop in eastern Kentucky and southern Ohio back in, I believe, 96, 97, 98. He was a Canadian guy. He was a flamboyant doctor. Drove around in sports cars, BMWs, wore flashy suits. For some reason, whenever I picture this Dr. Proctor, I imagine Saul Goodman, the character, the lawyer from Breaking Bad. Except he is a legal heroin dealer. That's what you could say. But he set up the model that so many doctors and any sort of system, the sort of system you could say that had been multiplied, had been replicated all throughout white America, we could say. Let me see what the chat's saying for a second. If I knew with certainty that by doing so that I could wake someone up for life right now, I'd catch a fat ass blast right now. Yeah, I can. I understand the feelings. Segure, you have to forgive me for mispronouncing your name there. But Siger said, "But you chose life. You didn't completely yield to nihilism." No, I didn't. But I was almost resigned to that fate there for about the last year. Hate to say it, but I managed to get away from it all. Had an opportunity to move away, like I said, and I took it. And I've learned a lot from those times. But where was I? Anyways, I was talking about the drug pandemic. That's the true pandemic here in white America. It's not the coup or whatever. And you see it to this day, of course. It's not necessarily so much prescription painkillers such as OxyContin and things of that nature, but it's more or less the now it's mainly heroin and fentanyl, which fentanyl is extremely potent. It is well, let me just put it this way. When they administer fentanyl, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, it comes in micrograms. A microgram is maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not up to date on these pharmaceutical measurements, but I believe a microgram is 1/1000th of a milligram. Now compare OxyContin. It's administered in milligrams. So fentanyl is some extremely poisonous stuff, you could say, extremely potent. And just seeing the human wreckage in my own life and learning about these things, and then learning about the Seagore. I appreciate that. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to butcher that, but anyways, seeing that sort of thing, and then learning about the Sackler family, Purdue Pharmacy, and all these things, it really hit home with me, you could say. But anyways, now that we're here, now that I'm here and I've come to see these things, when I got into this whole thing, I have to admit I was extremely naive. I had no idea. I just thought that this whole thing was a sort of organic gathering, which in many ways it is. In many ways, it is an organic sort of gathering of just people that see things, of white people that sees what the fuck is going on, and they know who's behind it, and they know what's that, they're aware of what is happening socially in this country. And let's see. Sig Visling says Walmart feeds off the cartels. Don't believe me? Look at Northern Arkansas. Oh, I certainly believe that. Absolutely. Um, where was I? You have to forgive me. I lost my train of thought there. Hold on one second. Let me get some water. Um. Anyway, I learned all these things, and there's a lot. I thought it was an organic sort of gathering, but in fact, it is a real shit show, I feel at times. Some people, I would call it, I guess, the racialist right, which honestly, I am 100% worn out with the whole left right paradigm. Um, as I've said oftentimes before, I'm simply just a racialist. If it works for our race, if it is good for our race, then it is positive. And I suppose that there are aspects of each paradigm that are worth applying, which I guess you could say National Socialism would apply the social conservatism with some of the more, I guess you could say, left wing economic sort of theories. You have to forgive me. I'm not a person that enjoys reading about economic theory. I find it boring. I don't care about fucking money. I only care about blood, to be honest. Blood is what matters. Race pragmatism. That's a good term there, Sig. Very good term. Um, F the left, F the right, long live the white. That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. Um, I just consider myself a racialist. And, I don't commit myself to any one particular ideology. I'm absolutely sympathetic to, National Socialism. But I don't consider myself necessarily one of them because if you think about it, that was 90 years ago in a country across the ocean. Now, of course, a lot of us have German or Germanic blood, obviously. They are our kin. Absolutely, our cousins from across the pond in the racial cradle, you could say, of Europa. But that was their biological spirit's expression. You see, everything is downstream from race. Economic systems, religion, it all stems from the blood. All of it is an expression of the blood. I know this is a very simplistic view, but this is just how I see it. Everything is downstream from race. And what they did, what National Socialism was their people's expression in a time of dire peril, a time of extreme need and danger. That's what National Socialism was. And I remember one of the big influences for me starting this channel, of course, was Varg Vikernes, the infamous one. But he had a huge influence on me starting this channel. And I do remember years ago seeing a video of his where he talked about the possibility of a national socialist sort of revolution. And in that video, he said that he did not foresee a sort of national socialist revolution ever taking hold. And the reason for this is because of what we seen during World War II. Germany, which was soon allied with Italy, Japan. They also had help from, I believe, Bulgaria and Romania. But the entire world teamed up on them. What we are led to believe is the capitalist communist paradigm, the extreme opposites of each other, teamed up to destroy the German expression of National Socialism. And Varg said that he doesn't think that a National Socialist revolution would ever take hold unless it was a sort of worldwide thing. Now, perhaps here in America, And I think he acknowledged this in that video. He said perhaps it could happen in America because we are separated by, you know, it's basically it's very difficult to invade America, you could say. It would be extremely difficult. But however, he said he didn't see it ever happening unless it was a sort of worldwide thing. And here in America, I don't know if it would ever happen, you could say. I don't know if we can apply that situation to what we see now because, here in America, what we see today, we have reached peak Weimar conditions. Well, I think we've actually exceeded them as far as just the absolute degeneracy that we see. We have exceeded what was going on in Weimar Germany. What we lack, of course, is the economic failure that was the Weimar Republic. That's what we lack. Although it can be argued that perhaps here in the future we will see this sort of thing happening. I mean, inflation is at a high. I used to find myself longing for the collapse, you could say. And really, I think that's kind of just another sort of form of what you could call millenarianism, which I believe millenarianism is how Christians are talking about, well, the world's screwed, but Jesus is coming back and we'll all be saved and taken away in the rapture. If you think about it, the hope for the collapse is not really all that different from that. Although I do think we would excel, at least a few of us would excel in the event of a collapse. I at least hope so. I have to believe, like I said, that there will be some Aryans who are Aryan in mind, body, and spirit, as Dringer once said. And I think we would thrive in such a situation. Some of us, at least. It would be the great filter, you could say. But, as far as National Socialism goes, I don't know if it would ever happen here in the United States because we are so ethnically varied, you could say. There's so much diversity here. There's so much shit like that. And I'm not really hoping for, well, I shouldn't say, I would consider myself an accelerationist, of course, but that's a whole other topic. But, I'm not looking towards some sort of great collapse. I think the powers that be understand a collapse is what many of people on our side of things, and even those that may not particularly have our racial views, but that are adjacent to us in a lot of ways, I think they understand that is what a lot of us are hoping for. So I don't think it's too wise to, I don't like to doom and gloom say so much anymore. It's like my friend Deceive says here, when COVID hit, if I was the one who released it, it would have been the greatest attack ever, but it still didn't bring it all down. Yes, that is a very good point. You see, I think that, unfortunately, while American civilization is very fragile, it's also, in some ways, perhaps even more resilient than we like to give it credit for. And this is something, I've heard so many people over the last especially since 2020, saying that, it's about the shit's about to hit the fan. Well, it's 2 years later. It seems like instead of the shit just hitting the fan all at once, what we're experiencing is just it's like an aerosol spray can just of shit being sprayed into the fan. And, it's just, anyways, I think you understand what I'm saying. Sorry for the crude sort of description there, I guess. But anyways, I know I'm rambling here, and you'll have to forgive me because, like I said, I have no notes prepared. But like I said earlier, I don't fully commit myself. I don't call myself a National Socialist. Of course, I know our enemies would call us all Nazis, which that's fine. In all intents and purposes, yes. In that case, I guess I am. But I'm also intrigued by the ideas of national anarchism. I'm not really a big fan of Troy Southgate, but I do think national anarchism is a model that is perhaps much more in line with some of my thoughts and feelings uh, regarding these things. Keith Preston is a very interesting guy. Um, but yeah, that's just some of my thoughts. And like I said, I've seen some sort of phenomena and things in this movement, as Pat calls it, that just baffles me. One thing that really gets me is ever since I joined Telegram, maybe a year ago or so, I've learned a lot of things. And I've learned a lot of things about this thing called the dissident right. And I hate that goddamn term anymore, to tell you the truth. I'm so fucking tired. People are like, oh, well, here in the DR. Oh, well, here in the DR, we do this. Oh, hell. Oh, hey, the DR, DR, DR. Fuck the DR. I can't help it, man. I feel really alienated from a lot of these people, at least a lot of the big names. I find myself just disagreeing with them. I don't know if I'm just being sort of, what do you call it, contrarian. I just think a lot of this stuff is just fucking bullshit. And the phenomena that perhaps gets me the most really isn't what Pat would call the mystery meat fascist. There's all these little different competing sort of factions in this thing. There's neo reactionaries or NRX, which I really don't have any care for any of those guys. The only person out of that group I feel that's kind of produced anything of any worth is a guy by the name of Nick Land. He wrote a very interesting essay on accelerationism. I believe it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but I really don't care. A lot of those people, I believe, are Catholic. I really have no love for Christianity. I would consider myself more on the pagan side of things, although I'm not. I don't argue with Christians or over religion anymore. I'm pretty tired of that. That's one thing I do about online. Um, Online, I really don't argue with people much. I really don't see the fucking sense in it a lot of times. I'm not one of these debate bros like, oh, did you watch that latest debate? Oh, God, did you see who won the debate? Who fucking cares about these debates? I don't really care. I guess they're the only interesting debate I've seen probably since this was James Mason and Bob Larson last year. I really enjoyed that one. That was a good one, which I wouldn't necessarily call that a debate, I guess. But anyways, and yeah, TDT, you're exactly right. Yeah, I talked to you enough. Yeah, I really, we are entitled to our own religious beliefs. You're Catholic, and I respect that. What I care about is if people care about their race. Blood first, I guess you could say. Anyways, um, the thing that gets me the most is this sort of tendency in these circles to consume, react, repeat. And I first heard this sort of thing from Pat and Dino from Goy Talk. I heard them talking about this. And if you look at all the current events that seem to have happened out in the world over the last, hell, I don't know, fucking the past year, it is, it's dizzying sometimes. Especially, and current events is something that I try to stay away from on this channel. Because there's so many different content creators, so many different big names that just constantly talk about current events. And I mean, I understand this, I guess. It is good to be aware of current events. Plus, it is also a never ending stream of content. I know it's content, but it's something I've heard Pat and Dino say too. They're like, it's content because people just seem to coom over it, you could say. It's all consume, react, repeat. And we see this now with the whole Kanye thing. We've seen it for months now with the Russia Ukraine ordeal. We've seen it, and I just grow tired of it. It's all about whoever, like Pat said, it's all about whoever produces the hottest take. Like, compare everyone's takes. You compare Keith Wood's, you compare the TRS's take, you compare this or that, and whoever's got the hottest take, you consume it, react, repeat. And it's just a never ending cycle. And I don't know if this comes from being terminally online. I don't know, man. I just find myself just growing like Pat said, who the fuck cares? You know? Who the fuck cares? I find myself just growing tired of it all in a way. And let me get a drink of water here. Subvert, incite, disrupt. Absolutely. Absolutely. Harry Holler, how you doing, cuz? Good to see you. Glad you can make it. Yeah, but if you have an IRA, you have to keep up with current events. Yeah, I actually have a fucking IRA. That motherfucker has lost $900 this year. But, that's whatever. I don't know if I should just go ahead and take my money out and purchase some supplies or what. But anyways, yeah, it's good to be aware on current events. But I just find myself growing tired of the news cycle, you could say. Let's see, we've been going for 41 minutes. God damn, I don't know if I'm going to make it 2 hours, to tell you the truth. Actually, I don't even know if I'm going to keep this stream up, to tell you the truth. I feel like this is just the ramblings of a person tottering on the edge of nihilism and insanity, you could say. I guess I'll keep it up. But going back to it all, I start to feel like talk is cheap. A lot of these talking heads just talk, they post their takes, they do this or that. Now, some of them are engaged in a sort of political activism. I really have no faith in the political system. I've made this abundantly clear over time. In fact, I know this, like I said, I'm an accelerationist. And I understand some people that are interested in joining these large groups for a sense of unity, for a sense of accomplishment. But I think, as Pat had also pointed out, this group model doesn't seem to really go anywhere, at least here in the United States, post-World War. And we've seen, as Pat has pointed out, I hate to keep bringing up Pat. I hate to keep shilling his stuff, but the guy's fucking right. Love him or hate him, I think he's 100% right on a lot of these things. PatCon, all these things, all it takes is one goddamn informant to really fuck up an entire sort of organization. It only takes one. Now, informants are not very smart. Most of them are not very intelligent. But this model has been used consistently since the end of World War II. And I, for one, am not really fond of the idea of joining any sort of large political organization. I'm not for it. I mean, look at what happened. I know this is on the opposite end of that spectrum, but look at what happened with Robert J. Matthews, David Lane, the Order. It only took one informant, that son of a bitch Tom Martinez. He brought the whole goddamn thing crashing down. He was their way in. And what a lot of white people don't understand these days is that if you are pro-white, that if you love your race and you care for your race, you're going to be viewed as a villain. And honestly, as things go, you are going to you're going to be viewed as a fucking criminal. Okay? you're going to be viewed as a criminal. That's what we're seeing. The line between legality and illegality is going to be consistently blurred. It's been blurred, and it's going to keep getting that way. Let's see. Cuz asks me, but do you let the enemy win when you refuse to join political parties or political groups? That is a very good question. And this is something I've thought about myself. When I first got into this thing 3 years ago, I found myself following the thoughts of Varg, as I mentioned earlier. Varg advocated for just total breakaway from the system, create a family, build a family, and try to produce your own things. Get some land, live rurally. Now, a lot of people will call this running away, this or that. I really think these people are fucking retarded. I'm serious. And if you're not joining, and then I got to talking to other people, John Fashcroft being one of them. And me and him, we disagree on this, which is fine. I encourage, he's a good guy. I had him on a stream last week. Enjoy talking to him. I love the guy. Love him to death. And although we see these things differently, we're still friends. I consider him a brother, and he's a guy that's went through a lot of adversity in his life. And if things were ever to come to push and shove, that's a guy that I want in my corner. Even though we may disagree on this, I want that man on my fucking side. But going back to the political question, he made a point that I thought was really interesting. He said that even though it might be doomed to fail, we have to do something. We have to do something, even if it is doomed to fail. So, I find myself, at that time, I found myself going in between, back and forth on this sort of debate. And I can certainly understand those of us that want to do this sort of political activism as a sort of setting the table for some sort of event that could come down the road. However, I do not think under the current paradigm that there is really any hope for any political solution. There's just not. We haven't suffered enough yet. It's the unfortunate truth. We haven't suffered enough yet. As Didymus Sumidid had said, whenever that great man in Europe, in Germany, came around from Austria, a lot of bad things had to happen first. There had to, the Russian Revolution. You had to have people like Trotsky. You had to have people like Lenin, Bela Kun, Rosa Luxemburg. You had to have all the disaster, the economic disaster of Weimar to prepare the way in the people's minds for accepting a new man and a new idea to save them from that center conservative Weimar sort of paradigm. A whole lot of bad things had to happen first, as Didymus said. They had to rape all those women. They had to kill all those children. They had to starve all those children to prepare the way. And I can understand people, the movementarian types, I guess, as you could say. I can understand them wanting to set the table. But you got to have some acceleration first, is just how I see it. I don't know if has anyone here in the chat, I hope y'all have heard of him. A guy named Tom Metzger. Tom Metzger was a severely underrated man in this, what you could call the history of white nationalism here in this country. And Pat interviewed him. I'm not sure. I think it was 3 years ago. Tom Metzger passed. Let me look it up. Metzger passed away. Fuck. Let me close that. I apologize. Let me look this up real quick. When did Metzger pass away? November the 4th, 2020. Okay, that's when Metzger passed away. Metzger was terribly underrated. And he was extremely that interview with Pat that he did on Surviving by America was absolutely outstanding. Just go to Surviving by America's page on Odyssey. I believe it was episode 20 of Surviving by America. But as Tom Metzger eloquently put it in that interview, that the white man in the United States has not had his ass kicked enough yet. He's not suffered enough yet. We're not going to see whites sort of collectivize until our backs are against the fucking wall. This is the harsh truth, at least on a mass scale. I think what we're seeing is the formation of that. And another thing that Metzger mentioned was that really, the idea of these sort of political demonstrations that our guys do is really kind of pointless. If you think about it, the events that happened in the year 2020, the events, the summer of love after Fentanyl Floyd passed away, overdosed. Shit, I might get sued for saying that by Floyd's family, but fuck them. They ain't getting shit out of me anyway. Sue all you want, bitch. I ain't got no fucking money for you. Anyways, that did more to wake the white man up than any sort of little march or political demonstration that any of these little different groups do. I think that sent a brutal message, a visceral message, an attention grabbing message. They did more work for us than probably any of these marches would ever do, to be honest. And let's see what the chat's saying. Give me a second. Give me just a second here. How you doing, Tristan? Sorry about earlier. They cut my other stream off. I like to pirate music, and they took it down, so I had to redo it. Starve the Beast, Boss Chad said, yes, that's what I consider. There's revolution from above, and then there's revolution from below. These are two sort of, I believe, Marxist terms. But I also look at it, too, as there's two forms of revolution that we could pull off. There is the hot revolution, which I cannot speak of, for legal reasons, for the channel, Can't really talk much about that here. But there's also the cold revolution, and the cold revolution, you could sum it up as starving the beast. The classical message, as I like to call it. And, going back to what me and Fashcroft were talking about over a year ago, I find myself going back to my original thoughts on the whole thing. If you want to join a group, and Sig, he mentioned this earlier, if you want to join a group, it should be something that is localized and within your community. These large national groups, I find them, I kind of think they're biting off more than they can chew. I'm more of a guy that goes for localism and regionalism. That's why I like the Sons of Appalachia, a small regional group that is trying to, trying to do these things. And when I say do these things, and this is something that I have to give Patriot Front some credit for, absolutely. And I have been critical of Patriot Front in the past. Basically, I've been critical of all of these sort of large national, sort of organizations. I don't think the model works. But one thing I will give I will give Patriot Front credit for is that I have seen them doing a lot of charitable work lately. And that is really one of the ways, I think, to get people on your side. And I think I got to give Pat credit because he interviewed Thomas Rousseau months and months ago after they had that data leak, you could say. Months back, he interviewed Thomas Rousseau, and he suggested, that perhaps they could go, doing some more charitable work. And unfortunately, on this side, it seems like people are more drawn to marching, to these political protests and demonstrations. While I guess that has a place, I think charitable work, while it doesn't get the oohs and the ahs from this side of the crowd, from this side of the fence, that is much goddamn more effective than any other thing I believe that you can do. Community outreach, charitable work. Southern Nordic DILF. I've heard of MILF, but I don't know about a DILF. Anyways, let's see what else the chat is saying. Promoting European, yes, cuz that's another good point. A sort of cultural preservation sort of organization. You could have festivals. That would be another way. Um, but anyways, I know I'm rambling here, guys. We've been going for about an hour. Let me see what the chat says. Give me a second here. Terrible Tom. Yes, rest in peace, Metzger. Rest in peace. Didymus is wise beyond his years. Absolutely. Absolutely. Total dropout is still doable. It is more difficult, however. That is true. I have to go the cold and hot revolution comparison. I kind of compare that to what Mason said. You either confront the system totally or you totally drop out. Let's see. Tony Evola. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Cuz said I don't have an answer. I find myself asking that question though. Yeah, I think we all do. I do think it's important to consider everything. But I've considered these things over the last couple of years, and this is how I've came to my positions. To be honest, you'll have to forgive me my voice. Non-consensual snuggles. How you doing tonight? It's good to see you. Does anyone have any advice for relocating within the United States? I'm a younger guy looking to leave where I'm at currently. Does anyone got any advice? I think the Pacific Northwest, Appalachia, Ozarkia, New England, maybe up in Maine are places that are worth looking at. How you doing, Ryan Dillingsworth? How's it going, brother? Yeah, just like Boss Chad said, move somewhere rural and conservative. Be prepared for the boomers. Yes, you have to, be prepared for that. But I still would much rather be around some rural conservative boomer cons, you could say, than the liberal leftist boomers that infect a lot of the areas of this country. How you doing, Mike Taylor? How you doing, man? Good to see you. East Tennessee, wholeheartedly, my man. Reddit Moment says it starts at diet. We need to kill the vegetable oil and high fructose corn syrup industry, exterminating our people with heart disease. It's the number one killer by far. I can agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I've seen some people in these circles months back dismissing, just dismissing. I'm not going to name who they are, but I'm sure most of you probably know who I'm talking about. They consider it conspiratorial, They consider it conspiratorial that being concerned about microplastics and these foods lowering testosterone, it's just like, what the fuck, dude? You are what you goddamn eat, motherfucker. You are what you eat, and what you put in your system affects you. But I guess these so-called leaders would have us, continue consuming their goddamn goy slop and shit. Let's see what else the chat says. Yeah, hey, Harry Holler, check out TDT's live streams. He does some live music. Check out his channel on Telegram, NS Attack. I was going to say, TDT, if you want to if you want to post a link to it in the chat, feel free. Absolutely. Shill your stuff by all means. Um, Harry Haller's my cousin, by the way. Um, he's a good feller. Damn good feller. Um, let's see. We've been going for an hour. We've got 30 people watching. That's not bad. That's good. I'm content with that. Dude, I'd talk to one of you if there was only one person here. Oh shit, I don't want to leave. What the fuck? Goddamn, don't do that. Patrick Fitzgerald, I love eating Bantu brains. Oh man. Let's see. How can anyone not believing that consuming plastic won't kill you? I don't know, man. I don't think they care. I can't help it. I think a lot of these larger talking heads in this thing that we're in are just they don't care about the quality of the individual. They like to grift, among other things. Among other things. That's how I got HIV. Shit. Um, how you doing, D Johnson? I don't think I'd ever seen you before. Welcome. Glad you could come by. Let's see. How you doing, Deceive? How you doing, Billy Bob? What do you think about draining the system through Section 8 housing, food stamps, EBT, WIC, food banks, etc.? A lot of people have pride about working and sustaining the system. Okay, that's a good question. Good question. Myself, I seriously, if you are a dissident and you can drain the fucking system, by all fucking means do so. Do you have HIV? No, I don't think so. I think I'm all right there. It's a good question, though. But to go back to the question, if you can, if you can take food stamps, fucking do it. I mean, you think about it. All these other minorities and shit that they're importing, they get this stuff, on a silver platter. If you can draw from it, go ahead. I don't see anything wrong with it. Help accelerate the collapse. And you are correct, though. Absolutely, there's a lot of people here, at least here in Appalachia, they frown upon the idea of drawing welfare. That's because a lot of people here do work hard, you know. But I don't see anything wrong with it. If you're a dissident, uh, take from the system. It's like I was watching an interview about what the fuck. I'll be all right, Fitzgerald. I'm good, dude. I'll be fine. We've got enough trying to kill us out there. Um, let's see. Cloward Piven tactics can work. What's the Cloward Piven tactics? I don't think I've ever heard of that. My neat bucks are one reason I have the time to be online at all. Hell yeah. Take them neat bucks. Take them. But yeah, I'm not opposed to a person trying to fuck the system by taking from the system. That's something that Vard preaches. That is something that James Mason has said to exercise. By all means, if you can get it, fucking do it. And I understand it'll be a burden on the taxpayers, but I mean, hell, well, I probably can't say that on here. I'm sorry, I've been drinking all day. That's all right, man. That's all right. I understand. It's hard not to sometimes. It's easy to get discouraged. Pine01. How you doing, Pine? Good to see you. I don't think I've seen you here before. But he brings up the very relevant point. Most of our families have been paying into the tax system for generations. We're entitled to that money. You're goddamn right we are. Absolutely. Absolutely. How you doing, Moita boy? How you doing, brother? Glad you could stop in. Glad you could stop in. But let's see if there was any other points I was wanting to make. Any other points at all? Yeah, that's like I said, going back to the original point, I find myself just sort of just disenchanted and disillusioned with a lot of this stuff. You know, however, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep preaching what Pat would call the classical message. And, you know, you got to look out for yourself. You know, if you're a true racialist, I think we really are by ourselves. We are by our fucking selves. And we've got to look out for ourselves. And doing this is by doing the things that you can to provide yourself, provide for yourself, build a family, get you a good woman that you're attracted to, and have some children. You know, this is, I don't have children yet, but I'm working on it. That's for sure. Oh man, this chat. Uh, Seeger asked me, "Can you talk about arming yourself or any action with guns against our enemies?" Well, it's I probably can't talk about it. It's not really that hard. It's pretty simple, actually. Um, I believe absolutely that we all should be armed to the teeth, and that's another goddamn thing. Goddamn, don't get me started on that. That's another fucking thing I've seen. Is I've seen some people in the DR say that you know, having guns is a sort of it's a crutch. You know, that's fucking bullshit. Now I understand the meme here in America. You know, people like to fucking they like to make fun of Americans because of their you know, Second Amendment or whatever. While there is some truth to this, you know, I kind of see, you know, them poking fun at Americans. But the idea of saying that, you know, you should, I mean, it's the goddamn, it blows my goddamn fucking mind. It is the least Aryan thing any Aryan should be armed to the fucking teeth. It's really just quite that simple. Going back through our people's history. You know, I seen my friend Ronan posted on Telegram earlier today. You know, it was the account that Ibn Fadlan, the Arab traveler ethnographer, you know, he was talking about the Varangians, which were just the Vikings that came to Eastern Europe, to Constantinople, all these other places, and he was talking about, you know, every one of them was armed with a sword, an axe, and a sayax or a knife, and they never parted with these with their weapons while they were out in public. You know, so it's absolute bullshit. You know, it's absolute bullshit. You know how people will say, you know, oh, don't have arms. You know, what the fuck? Are you expecting the state to protect you? You know, and that's something else that Pat has pointed out. The love on this side of things for authority, just for authority's sake. Fuck that shit. Fuck that goddamn shit. You are fucking retarded. It's just these people have a crutch of wanting the state to provide everything for them. You know, it just blows my mind. Um, let's see. I know I'm rambling. I know I'm bouncing back and forth. Maybe I should call this stream the Schizo stream. That might be a more fitting name, you could say. How you doing, Lucifer? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing good. Um, hell, but yeah, like I said, I'm going to keep going. I've got some really interesting stuff I'm going to talk about here in the future. I'll go ahead and give you an idea of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to make a video about the concept of white omerta here soon. I am pretty excited to make this. I have touched on this before in my video, The Syndicate. Me and Patrick Siegeman And my buddy Yonder, we did a stream a while back, a few months ago, talking about trying to give people a sort of an idea of their rights and of how some of these groups have been infiltrated before. What to do if you find yourself being if you find yourself in the lawman's crosshairs, you could say. If you find yourself under questioning, I'm gonna make a video about the concept of white omerta. I've got a couple of articles that I will read to you, a couple of stories to tell you. But yeah, that's something I've been wanting to make for a few weeks now. I'm gonna try to get it made maybe next week. Also, next week, I am going to do a stream with Yonder and Pat. We're going to do a stream about Eric Rudolph. And I've been reading the Eric Rudolph's manifesto, you could say, Between the Lines of Drift. I highly recommend for any of you to read that haven't. If you haven't read it, it's well worth reading. It is honestly one of the most enjoyable things I've probably read within the last few months. But we're going to do two streams. We're going to do a stream about his early life, and then we're going to do a stream about his days of action, his days on the run. Let's see. I'll probably make a video reading a ghost story from the town that I'm from for a Halloween sort of thing. Hucifer, I can sum it up in that video in 4 words: keep your mouth shut. Absolutely. It's really, this isn't, any sort of rocket scientist or science or anything. Nobody talks, everybody walks. It's really quite simple. But I found a really good article that William Luther Pierce had written years ago talking about this sort of thing. And there's a couple other things I might read from, but it's really just a simple concept. Let's see. Saturday, I'm going to have a stream with a guy named Brent Danger, who has a very good project going. It's something unique, I think. He has a website set up called School of the West, and it's a sort of resource for parents that want to homeschool their children. That will be an interesting stream. I think my friend Hans and Moita Boy that's in the chat is going to join me for that one. Also going to have my friend Dirty Newbie on. I've got a lot of ideas, but I'm about to go on a hiatus here soon for probably about a month or 6 weeks because I have to during that time of year. Work just kind of gets hectic during this time of year. But I want to try to get all this done before then, but I don't know if I'll have time. Anyways, does anybody got any questions? Anybody got any questions? I feel like I've rambled long enough. Probably going to be hoarse tomorrow. Probably won't have much of a voice, but that's okay. Has anybody got questions? You can ask me. Feel free. Fitzgerald asked, the Varangians were part Slavic. Well, that's a topic that's of sort of a debate in these circles. I think the original Varangians were Germanic. TDT, you can ask shit post questions. I really don't give a damn. I don't know if I'm even going to keep this stream up, actually. You can ask what you want. I think the original Varangians, of course, I think they were Germanic. Largely, they came from what is now Sweden. But we do see, you look at Sviatoslav the Brave, who is one of my favorite historical figures. Destroyed Khazaria, laid waste to it. Sviatoslav, of course, is a Slavic name. His mother's name was Olga, which was, I believe that is the Slavic. I can't think of the word right now. What's the word that means that two words are related, but just in different languages. I can't think of it right now. You'll have to forgive me. Um, yeah, Moita Boy. Yes, originally they were from southern Sweden and they took Slavic wives. Yes, I believe that is correct. So, yeah, there certainly is Nordic blood in some of the Slavic tribes. Absolutely. Anybody got questions? Oh man. Yeah, Helga. Exactly. That I forgot to add that in there. That is the cognizant. The Khazarians were part black, possibly. um. Well, what's the greatest thing you learned this year that aids the cause? It's a good question. And I like how you put it as the cause. Some people talk about the movement, the movement. I can't help it. The movement, I feel like it ain't really getting anywhere, but the cause still remains. I like that. Um, the greatest thing I guess I've learned is possibly the need for networking. The need for networking. Um, I think networks are greater than groups. The idea of a group being on paper with a membership list and all this, I think is counter revolutionary. Of course, any of these sort of groups would not be engaged in any sort of illegal activities, obviously. At least I would hope not. Still, the idea, though, you see it with all the doxing that happens. Um, but yeah, I think networks are greater than groups. And I will say this: I think I've managed to sort of put together a decent little network. That's one thing I try to do, and I kind of pride myself on is that I try to put people in touch with other people. It was the channel Way of the World. I don't think he's on YouTube anymore, but his channel, he had like 110,000 subs, I think, when he got taken down. And I think he had a channel before that that had been taken down that was even larger. And he had a thing set up called Nat Connect, which was Nationalist Connect. He has a great a network that is all across the world. And he had a thing set up, like I said, called Nat Connect. And I emailed him. And what you did was you would email him, and he had different people in different regions of the United States. And this is how I met just a couple of guys in an informal fashion. He puts you on a mailing list. I don't know if he still does it though. I don't know if he's still running that program. But I ended up meeting two really good friends that live just within an hour from me. My friend Wes, he makes the introduction, the little graphic introductions. I didn't make that shit. I'm a fucking retard when it comes to electronics and animation. He made that for me. I go see him every couple of weeks. He's a really good dude. Old boomer pal Wes. He's a really good friend. But that's something I would like to see set up, or I would like to be able to do myself. And of course, you've got to be careful, and that's a warning that Way of the World gave in his video where he first promoted this. You got to be careful. And, that's something that I try to meet people in real life. So far, I've met about 15. Husifer, you're one of them. And I've been very lucky so far. I've met really good people. But of course, you've got to be fucking careful. I've stressed this before. I think getting a sense of community is important. And that's why I like the Sons of Appalachia group, because it's regional. I've met the founder, had a blast. Me, my woman, and him and his wife met up a few weeks ago. Went hiking in the Nantahala forest. It was great. Husifer says, I think getting to know people on Telegram is the best method for figuring out if they're worth meeting in real life. I think that is absolutely correct. I think Telegram is a useful tool for our guys to use. But of course, like I said, you got to be careful. If anyone ever makes you feel uncomfortable, don't fucking meet them. You don't fucking have to. You're not under some contract. You ain't got to do it. If they make you feel uncomfortable, just tell them, hey, you know, I don't think I'm going to meet you. You wig me the fuck out. I got a weird feeling in my gut about you. I think you glow. I'm not going to meet you. It's really that simple. Or you can just ghost them, break off all contact. Either method works. But, anyways, anybody else got any questions? TDT says, I don't think he does. Yeah, I don't think he does either. I haven't gotten any new emails from. See, what they'll do is they will put your. He will put you in contact with a person who is near you, and then over time, as more people join it, you put what area. And I mean, I guess this is for all across the world. I'm sure he does it in. Do you have Rh negative blood? No, I don't, sir. Don't believe so. That's a really rare blood type, and I do not have it. What was I going to say before I got sidetracked there? God damn, I've completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, I don't know if he's. I don't know if he does it anymore. I haven't got any new matches in probably like a year. Oh man, you did it for a year, and all three of them were mystery meat. Oh man, that sucks. But yeah, you are in Florida, so yeah. Let me see. Simple Man asks a good question. Conservatives believe the election was stolen, but still believe in voting next time. Why are so many white people naive? Well, it's just conditioning, you could say, I guess. Here in America, we are led to believe that democracy and voting is how you get your things pushed through. Yeah, I don't know why they put so much stock in voting. I will say this: I think if you are able to vote, I guess you should. But I think you are fucking stupid to put any stock in it. I mean, you can vote if you want to. I don't think I will. I might. I don't know. I'm not. That's 2 years from now. Oh yeah, there are the midterms. I don't know. But to have faith in the system is completely fucking retarded. Completely stupid. Just completely stupid. Husifer said, I tried joining PF last year, but they made me feel weird, so I bailed before the in-person vet. Hey, man, I don't blame you at all, If anything makes you feel, you do have a sense of intuition for a reason. Absolutely. Voting is a waste of time outside of localish elections. Yes, I believe that as well. Definitely. Although I have to admit, I don't really keep up with local politics, unfortunately. Perhaps I should. Perhaps I should. My democracy, my constitution. Look around you. Do you see things operating under powder-wigged gentlemanly days rules? No, absolutely. Absolutely. It is not. Let me see. I wanted to read something to you. A little extra content here. Let me read something to you that I found very interesting. I actually posted part of it on Telegram earlier today. From the Lines of Drift, of course, from Eric Rudolph, Saint Rudolph. Now, this is at the end, near the end of Between the Lines of Drift. The only harm in voting is the delusion. Absolutely right, Bormagni. Bormagni. I'd like to get you on a stream here soon again, Bormagni. I really enjoyed talking to you that time a couple of months back. Let me see if I can read this here. Let me see. Okay, I think I found it. Now, this is Eric Rudolph, and this is near the end of Between the Lines of Drift. And he was thinking about carrying out another action. He was going to destroy the FBI armory that was in Murphy, North Carolina, which is not too terribly far from here. This is one reason why I'm really drawn to the story of Eric Rudolph, is the proximity of me to this area. Plus, I remember this all when it happened when I was a child, when I was a kid. But right now, he ended up backing off of his plan. He was going to attack by now, the feds had pretty much left Western North Carolina. They had gave up the search for Eric Rudolph. He had already been out in the woods for 2 or 3 years by now. And anyways, let's go here. Before that day, I'd never really thought about leaving the country. Why would I? The fight was here in America, not in Mexico or some other nation. Yet now I began mulling over this idea. To have any chance of survival in a foreign land. This is also after the 2000 election between George W. Bush and Al Gore. And what Rudolph wanted to do is prime accelerationism. He wanted to either attack an abortion clinic that was in Asheville, North Carolina, which he really didn't have any knowledge. He'd been in the woods for like 2.5 years already, evading the feds. But he was wanting to force the moderates, because George W. Bush, abortion was a really big issue for Rudolph. He wanted to influence the election. And if an abortion clinic was redacted, you could say, then it would scare a lot of moderates into voting for Gore, which Gore would have continued the trend that Bill Clinton had started of running the country into the ground. Let's see. Let me get back. Oh, shit. Wrong window. To have any chance of survival in a foreign land, I would need to know the country and the language. Also, I'd need excellent false ID, plenty of cash, and constant movement from one place to another. Of course, I could do that if I had help, if I had a network of trusted friends, people unknown to the feds to hide me in safe houses. Heck, if I had a network of trusted friends to hide me in safe houses, there'd be no need to leave the country. Leaving the country won't solve anything, not in my situation. Perhaps if I were wanted for back taxes, I could hide in a foreign country. But not when I'm one of the most wanted men in the world. Sooner or later, that small-town cop in Costa Rica will ask questions about the new gringo in town. That motel clerk in Canada will recognize my resemblance to the face on the wanted poster she keeps in the office. That employer in the Philippines will wonder why a Westerner has applied for a job cleaning fish. In the movies, the fugitive makes it across the Rio Grande River and then lives out the remainder of his life on a tropical beach sipping pina coladas. But that's only in the movies. In real life, if you make it onto the FBI's 10 most wanted list with a $1 million reward on your head, there are few places on this planet where you can find sanctuary. The FBI will come looking for you regardless of your location. I concluded that I wouldn't make it in Canada or Costa Rica or any other place. I was better off sticking with what I knew best. Step outside my area of expertise and I'd get caught. What I knew best were those areas outside society's gated walls, those forgotten places between the lines of drift. I'd always made an effort to stay off the information grid rather than try to beat it. For years, I paid no taxes, kept no credit cards or bank accounts, and had no telephone. My truck has been registered to a dummy address. I paid for everything in cash. I lived in cheap dives under assumed names and moved to new lodgings every 6 months. I kept my paper trail to a bare minimum. Let me scroll down slightly. A decision to hide in the hills, which seems strange to people who live their lives tethered to the grid, was merely a logical extension of that approach. There is no grid in the mountains. Insects don't ask for ID. Squirrels don't squeal on you. Deer don't drop the dime. And bears don't watch America's Most Wanted. If I could avoid people and a paper trail, I could avoid problems. The woods were my element. If the feds decided to come into my element, I knew I could beat them. That strategy had worked for me in the past. It would continue to work for me in the future. During my years of hiding, I learned to live in the wild. I had water, shelter, and plenty of food. I'd risked life and limb to acquire that food and knowledge. The helicopters and hound dogs were gone. Why trade the certainty of these accommodations for the uncertainty of life on the run in a foreign country? Why trade the incomparable beauty of the Appalachian Mountains for some foreign slum? My new strategy entailed staying alive for as long as possible in these God inspiring mountains. Anyways, yeah, that's just what I wanted to read you there. Um, let's see what we got going on here in the chat. I've been going for an hour and a half. Hey, Timmy Bobinson, how you doing, man? I ain't seen you in a while. How you doing, brother? Hope you've been doing good. Hadn't seen you in a long time. Hope you're feeling good, feeling great tonight. The chat. What's the chat got to say? I appreciate that, Seagore. I appreciate that. I'm about to lose my damn voice, though. I can feel it. Germanic Werewolf, how you doing tonight, brother? Let's see. Your thoughts of people learning survival, practical modern skills, building a business around that skill, employing and working together to buy land and form our own communities. Yeah, by all means, if you can build, if you could actually build a business, through some of your survivalism skills, is absolutely the way to go. Um, by all means. And if you can employ some of our guys, I mean, this is outstanding. This I am absolutely for this. And if you can work together, check out the Woodlanders channel. I think you know of him already, but check out the Woodlander. He talks a lot about this. He has knowledge on this that would exceed my own. I believe certainly it would exceed my own. Um, Check out his channel and to form your own communities. Absolutely, But let me put this out to you too as well. If you were to have any sort of pro-white community, pro-white rural community that you and perhaps some friends, maybe a few families were to start, I would not advertise it. Do not fucking advertise it. Don't fucking do it. Keep it small. Start out small. And then, you can use the online community, perhaps like Telegram or something. You can use that to perhaps vet, I guess you could say, or recruit. Recruit's the word I'm looking for. You could look for potential people that you would invite to your community through that method. But I wouldn't just go out and advertise it. I wouldn't make a YouTube channel promoting it. I wouldn't make a Telegram channel promoting it. I would keep that under your hat. And I mean, you can talk, uh, you can talk to people, meet them, but use it as a recruiting tool. Don't advertise it, because if you advertise something wonderful like that, there will be informants or bad actors or whoever that will want to fuck it up. I wouldn't advertise it. Keep it on a need to know basis. Anyways, what else we got? Anyone else? God, we've been going. I love this chat, guys. I love y'all. Glad y'all came in, talking to me, taking the pressure off of me. I'll admit I don't think this is by any means my best stream ever. It's been rambling. Who else we got? What we got? Non-consensual struggle said, yeah, man, I get that. That's why I asked for good places to relocate earlier, because in my current local area, it's damn near impossible to find white men who aren't cucked. Yeah, that sounds like you're probably in an urban or suburban area, probably. Anybody else got any questions? Anybody got anything else? Hell, y'all want to talk about some books? You want to talk about some books I'm reading? Show you my book collection. If you want me to do that, I'll cut the camera on and I'll show you some of the stuff I'm reading. And yeah, I know Pat says showing books are gay, but I'm kind of bored right now. I don't think anybody's wanting to talk in the chat. Nobody else has really got any questions. All right, then. TDT said yes. When you going to let me on the stream? Yeah, I'd like to get you on here soon. Definitely. You still on Telegram, Dawning Armor? If you're on Telegram, hell, come on right now if you want it. Which I'm probably going to shut this down here in about 20 minutes or so. Yeah, let me show you my books. Let me show you what I'm reading on and what I need to read on. Let me start the camera. Okay, there we go. Shoot, God, I look like shit. Let me pull some books off the shelf here. Okay. Oh, let me pull a few off here for you. Let's see what we got. Oh, this is a good one too. And this is a good one. Let's see. My friend Carl Dolphin, he actually sent me this a while back. It's The Backyard Homestead. Pretty good book, which I have to admit I haven't read much of it. Probably need to. Because, I mean, I've got a decent knowledge of planting gardens, planting vegetables. My friend, like I said, Carl Dolphin, he sometimes leaves comments under my videos. He sent me this a year ago. I appreciate that. This is a book that I can't recommend enough. The Fame of a Dead Man's Deeds. It was by Robert S. Griffin. It's kind of like a it's a biography of William Luther Pierce. I can't recommend this enough because it's a bit of a comprehensive history of American white nationalism. Let's see. Yeah, Pat is right. Showing books are gay. What I like about this is it talks about George Lincoln Rockwell. It talks about, there's a really good chapter about the order, David Lane and Robert J. Matthews. I need to read this. I ordered this from DVX Publishing. This is Niccolo Machiavelli, The Prince. I ordered this from my friend's publishing house, DVX Publishing. That's where I also ordered this book, Germania. Made a video, of course, discussing that a while back. This is another one from DVX, The Art of War in the Middle Ages. I've not got to crack it open yet. This is a book that I have enjoyed so far, Terrorist's Creed. This is by Roger Griffin. I don't think he's, of course, related to Robert S. Griffin. Terrorist's Creed, Fanatical Violence and the Human Need for Meaning. I've read a bit of it so far. And it's a really good, Pat suggested this one to me, and it's got chapters on the Sakari, I believe is how you pronounce it, which was this Jewish sort of terrorist organization that killed Romans. It goes back in history. It's got a really good chapter on the black terrorism, the black subversion of the sort of fascist terrorism in the years of lead. It's got a chapter on Timothy McVeigh, the holy warriors of the Kali Yuga. It's got the post-nihilism of the Bader Meinhof gang. Then it's, of course, got a chapter about ISIS, some of the Islamic terrorists. Anyways, talks about the Chechens some. Let's see. I've got Ride the Tiger by Julius Evola. Not sure how to pronounce it. My friend Ronan, who I did that stream on the Years of Lead, he sent me this. I've not got to crack into it yet. That's one thing that sucks, I like to read, but during like the spring, summer, and fall, I'm busy with a lot of things outside. I don't get to read very much during that, but during the winter, I have a lot more time to read because not fishing as much, not worrying about a garden, things like that. So I definitely have my work cut out for me this winter when it comes to reading. These are a couple of good books about the Ulster Scots, Scotch-Irish history. I read this a few months back, Finding the McCains. This is by Barry R. McCain. And Barry, he watches some of my videos and stuff. He's a really interesting guy. And it's Finding the McCains, a Scotch-Irish Odyssey. Talks about his story and the research work that he did looking into his heritage, his trips to Scotland and Ireland. This is the Lagan Redshanks, which were a Scotch-Irish family. I've got a couple of Appalachian folklore books here. Witches, Ghosts, and Signs by Patrick Gaynor. I've read a good part of it. Now, this book, I've only got to read a little bit of it. I got it a few months ago. The Red Church, The Art of Pennsylvania German Brockery. Probably butchering how you pronounce that. This has a lot of interesting sort of rituals and traditions. Hey, how you doing, Barry? I mentioned your books. Really enjoyed them. Let's see. Have you read Varg's books? Yeah, I've read them. I've actually got them over here. I've read 4 of them, and I think he wrote a 5th one that he might have published like a year or 2 ago, but I don't have it. But the Red Church, it's interesting. It's got all of these sort of old rituals and remedies. Let me see if I can find it. There's all these sort of graphs, pictures, these sort of like, I don't know if you can see that. Fuck, you can't see it. Sorry for the low quality. But yeah, I'm really interested in reading this. This is some of these old Germanic traditions and rituals that extend back. Although, of course, it's kind of a Christian perspective. This is like the German traditions that the Germans who settled Appalachia brought with them. A lot of these traditions extend back to the pre-Christian times. Let's see. What else I need to show you? This is an interesting book, Bluegrass Conspiracy. There is a lot of glowing activity that occurs in eastern Kentucky. It seems like there's more of that up there than there is here in East Tennessee, from what I understand. But this story starts in East Tennessee. If anyone has ever heard of Pablo Escobar, look that up. That'll kind of give you a idea of this. It all starts with a lawyer named Andrew Carter Thornton II, who was found dead in a guy's driveway. He had parachuted out of an airplane. He had like 150 pounds of cocaine strapped to his body. An old man found this guy's body in his driveway one morning. Had a couple of guns, maybe a satellite phone, and 150 pounds of coke strapped to him. But yeah, look up Pablo Escobar if you've never heard of him. It's an interesting little, about to be a tourist trap, I guess you could say. Our Traditions, Vegard Solheim. It's a really good book. 10,000 Hearts, One Beat. Yes, sir. No Country for Old Men, Cormac McCarthy. I also have Blood Meridian and Suttree here somewhere. It might be on my other bookshelf. This is a good book here. A Handbook of Native American Herbs. It's a really good sort of guide, field guide, you could say. My friend from California, Carl Dolphin, he sent that to me last year. It's got a really good entry on ginseng. I love the ginseng hunt. Interesting book. Recommend it. This is a book I'm wanting to cover in a stream or here in the future. John Muir, 1,000-Mile Walk to the Gulf. He was a Scotchman, a Scottish man, and he was a naturalist. He traveled all across America. And actually where I make a lot of my fishing videos, up there in Reliance, Tennessee. The Hiwassee River runs through there. There is a trail called the John Muir, or is it John Muir? I'm probably butchering it, of course. But there is a trail called the John Muir Trail. And he walked 1,000 miles from eastern Kentucky and then went down through East Tennessee, along the Hiwassee River, down into Georgia. He walked all the way to the Gulf of Mexico in Florida. I'd like to cover this here soon. It's another book I have to read. Now, of course, I've got these two classics. Madison Brant's works, The Passing of the Great Race, and then Conquest of a Continent. Very well worth reading. Yes, he was. John Muir was based. Green Fash. Fishing nationalism, yes. Patrick Fitzgerald Escobar was a Freemasonic CIA employed drug trafficker. Very possible. But what I was saying was Pablo Escobar. It's not Escobar. Just Google that. Google that when you got a second. You'll find that a pretty wild story there. When you're going to write a book, Nordic? Well, I don't know. I do think that I write a lot better than I speak. I've got more books here, but that's all I'm going to show you for now. I don't feel like I'm doing it again. Anyways, let me stop the camera. Yeah, when you're going to write a book? Well, my friend that had that publishing house, DBX Publishing, he actually mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago. He kind of encouraged me to write a book. I told him, I didn't know what I'd write about. I might write a book about the years of meth, honestly. He said it because I've told him a lot of stories about the things that I did, the criminality that I was engaged in, and what I learned from it. But I don't know. I may write a book, sort of a autobiography, I guess you could say, of my experiences in that life and what I learned from it. But I don't know. That would be way down the road. Um, but he sounded really interested in it. But there's a picture of him standing in front of the White House. Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. You know. Oh. Does anybody else got any questions? Anything else at all? I think I'm gonna shut this down here in a second. If anyone's got any last questions. Get a drink of water. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I've got tonight. Uh, Thank you all for coming. I won't do these streams very often. Um, I guess I'll call the Sono show will be streams where I have guests, and the Nordstream will just be me rambling. Um, Next time for Nordstream 2, I'll try to have something more concise, something more perhaps more coherent, I guess you could say, because I know I do like to ramble a lot. I don't think it's possible for me not to ramble. But I want to thank y'all for coming. Um, Thank y'all so much. I really enjoy doing this, guys. I truly do, and I appreciate everybody, even the people that don't like me. Um, I still appreciate y'all, and I'll keep. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep on producing stuff like this until they ban me. But also um, I want to say I do feel myself wanting to do something more. That's why I'm trying to kind of network. Um, I know me and the Sons of Appalachia guys are wanting to try to do some charitable work for Christmas, at least here for this area of Appalachia. But I have to admit it's kind of daunting because I don't know anything about this sort of thing, about how to set up some sort of charitable thing. But like I said, while I don't really have a concrete idea, I think we got to do something. I mean, even if it's just us doing a toy drive and me going back home, because back home I know some families that their children could probably use some help. Give them something to put under the Christmas tree. I think that's something I want to try to do. I feel the need to do more. Oh, you wanted to see the book again? Let me flip the camera on. Here you go, cuz. Fame of a Dead Man's Deeds, an up close portrait of white nationalist William Pierce. You can order this on Amazon, surprisingly. And Robert S. Griffin does an outstanding job. He paints a really good picture. I mean, it's not the typical journalist bullshit that you often see from journalists covering such a person. He does a really good job looking into it. He lived with Pierce, I think, for a few months or so. It's been almost a year since I read that book. But it's well worth checking out. Absolutely. There's even a chapter on Revelo P. Oliver, too. Hey, back at you, Cascadia Patriot. If there's any other place other than Appalachia I would live, it would be the Pacific Northwest, like Eastern Washington, Idaho, perhaps Northern Idaho, somewhere rural. But anyways, guys, I have rambled long enough. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here. Next week, maybe a week from today or maybe Wednesday night, we will try to do part 1, I suppose, of Between the Lines of Drift, of Eric Rudolph's life. the early days. And Saturday, if y'all are bored, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going to have Brant Danger on and discuss his project of School of the West with my friends Hans and Moita Boy. And anyways, guys, I truly appreciate y'all. I do this for you guys as a sort of, you know, it's a creative outlet for me because I really enjoy doing this. And I hope that maybe some people can maybe learn something from it, maybe something. Um, I'll never do this for any money, any monetary gain. I'm just, I don't want money, blood's what matters. Anyways, thank y'all so much, and I hope y'all have a good night. Bormagni, it was good to see you again. It's good to see you as always, Brian. Um, Harry Holler, good to see you. And guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all have a great evening, good day, whichever part of the world you're in. Good night. Bye-bye.